Hello, advanced music producers. So I thought for an early video here, I might just kind of walk you through a track of mine, or two tracks that I've worked on recently. One of these was for my wife's voice student who wrote a song, and so we thought it might be fun to actually put a track together. And because all this is happening, we were supposed to have her come and record it vocally this week, but that has not happened yet, and probably won't for a while, let's be honest. So I've got that track pulled up. I also got another one. I don't know if you all know Aidan Lloyd, but he was working on a documentary that now is definitely not going to happen in its full form. But I told him I would come up with some little stuff to see, what he might want for some sort of soundtrack for it. So I think I'm just going to walk through these two things. Why don't I start with this one? Just because it's a little bit simpler, or there's not as many tracks. So the first thing I started with was the Celesta here. So the Celesta is a really cool instrument. It's an acoustic instrument. Before, I'm not going to try to pull up a YouTube video, but still acoustic. But it sounds like it was an electric piano before we even had electricity. So it was some sort of metal bar that it was hitting. So here's what it sounds like. Let me take off all my plugins and reverbs and everything. Yeah, so I've got some nice little 7th and 9 chords and made it a little bit fancy, but I added this retro color plugin, so it is adding some noise every time. I'll turn it way up, and especially while it's playing, it adds more. It's wobbling, it's distorting a little bit, it's adding some digital distortion. That's kind of doing some wobbly business as well. Now, one thing that's no fun about this setup that I've got going is that you can't hear it in stereo. So all of my left and right panning will be ruined. I decided it was a little too top heavy, so I just threw a EQ on it. And here's with my reverbs. I've got 2 reverbs, a short, a long, and then this is a delay. So here's with those things as well. Yeah, so that's what I started with, and actually this is a different progression. Yeah, and then I don't remember which came next, but here's the 808 with it. Yep, and because I knew what chords I was playing down here, I was just able to follow those with the bass line. So G, D, D, G, and now D. I'm just playing the octave there. So this is really just 2 notes. On this one, it gets a little more fancy as the chords do. So this one. But it's mostly still D and G. Those are still the main notes of the pattern. So let me play the whole everything together. Here's the whole thing, and then I'll get into the next part. All right, so I think I actually added a software drummer, but it doesn't matter. So I've got, let me show you my drums here. This one, I don't have them on all the separate tracks. I build my drums usually in Machine. So I've got, well, I guess I can show you. This will be a bit complicated, but to my, down here, I've got my Machine. And so I usually build my drums there. And then I use this as a plugin within Logic. This is all Logic, by the way. But all the same tools apply. Every DAW just does it slightly differently. So I'll build my patterns in here, drag them over into Logic, and then I can edit them from there. And then there's kind of a weird quirk where I have to just play an empty scene in order so it doesn't play the pattern while I do it. Here's the first pattern, and then here's the second pattern. So those follow along with this. But then what's nice about this is I can still go in and edit it once I drag it, because these sounds are still just mapped. You'll notice I don't have any kicks in here, and that's because they are just layered in with the 808. So a lot of times people will, you got to line your kicks and your 808s up. What I've started doing lately is using the Alchemy synth. I just layer my 808s and my kicks directly together. So here's just a kick sound. And that's just to get that little attack on it. I did some things to tune it up and make it sound exactly how I wanted to. But here's a sub 808. And then here's a little more distorted one. And I added a little bit more on it too. But so these together sound like that. So I don't need a kick in here. Pretty simple. Some little stutters happening on the hi-hat, but and here's the second pattern. Definitely missing some panning stuff that's happening here, but that's okay. So I've got some weird sounds that I added in for this one. I've been messing around with a Nintendo sounds pack, which I can send out to you guys. But I used some of those sounds in here lightly, but so this you can't hear, but it moves from left to right, and it's just one note difference. Da, 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 and it's notes that line up with the piano parts. This is kind of a cool little, I don't know what it is, but then I put a delay just on that one. So pop around, pop this out, and where is that sound? Uh-oh, I've got blip, crash static, that's where it is. So on here, I added some extra stuff to make it sound a little extra cool. I just like that sound to kind of use it as a weird crash. Some little squeaks and blips. And with the 808, cool. And lastly, I've been trying out this thing where I just like layer guitars over each other, and so I think I must have started with just this one. I'll start at the beginning. And all that was playing, I think at that point, was the Celesta. And then I wanted there to be kind of a response to that. So these two guitars kind of go back and forth. This one is just plucking back and forth, and then it gets louder. And this is just a slide down. It just comes in every once in a while. So those 4 guitars together. And with the Celesta. Now I've built out. This is not anything at this point. Like I just kind of I created a little section without the 808 and then another one with only those things because I thought that sounded nice. But anyway, that's the track. It's definitely not. I've added some mixing stuff on here, but not a ton. Yeah, so I would say it's kind of half mixed. This one's a little more developed. There's a lot more parts on here. And what's my time at? Oh, I'm already 11 minutes. I'll do a separate one with this one. All right. Later.